Hey guys, back with another short episode. Today we're talking about emotional immaturity and why this is such a big deal. Why is this more common than we think? A lot of adults are or do struggle with emotional immaturity, and this episode would be if you're like more like me, you're self-aware and you want to do work on yourself, and you're surrounded by people that are emotionally immature. What do you do? What do we do when we how do we interact with people that are emotionally immature when we work with them, or they're in our family, or we maybe there's some friendships that with people of emotional immaturity? What do we do? So first I'm going to go through my, I guess, signs of emotional immaturity, or this is all coming from my perspective, and everyone's experience is going to be different, but this is coming from my perspective. So one of the signs of emotional immaturity I find in adults is that they do not like to take responsibility for anything. They always blame everyone else for their problems, or they do not like to communicate important things in a situation or a relationship or situation. So your boss has something to talk to you about, or something against you, yet they refuse to communicate in a healthy way, and it's more passive aggressive instead of direct. Or this could be someone in your family that tends to pick fights and tends to belittle you or pick at you. So there's emotional immaturity is like a variety of situations, and number one, these are not bad people. People that are struggle with emotional immaturity, these are not bad people. And let me be clear that we all can struggle with emotional immaturity at different points in our lives. But there's a difference between people that are continuously emotionally immature and those of us that choose to change. So this episode will be, how do we deal with people that refuse to change or cause a lot of difficulty in relationships? First, understand that their actions have nothing to do with you, absolutely nothing to do with you. I'm currently dealing with a situation of someone that let's just say someone that I work with that I feel is emotionally immature and can't really handle different boundaries and different perspectives. So at first I personalized this. I thought this was all me. I thought I did something to upset the person. I thought that I needed to change something or do better to make the environment more comfortable for that person. But after time, I realized that I was personalizing it, and I was internalizing their reaction, and I needed to, number one, yes, we all need to take responsibility for how our actions contribute to others. But number two, not everything is your fault, and as long as you take responsibility for how you react, that is what is most important, because that person will make it seem like you are the problem, but there's in 9 times out of 10 of relational conflict, it's usually two people, and it's not, oh, that person takes the full responsibility. Both people need to take responsibility, but people that are emotionally immature do not take responsibility. They refuse, and they will blame everything on you. Yeah, so your boss or coworker might blame something that is their responsibility on you, or they might criticize you for something that you do, or um, they might take something and blow it out of proportion to what the situation actually is. So emotional immaturity is a range, and in more because in this setting you don't have to deal with these people, um, at home, but you kind of deal with them. You kind of have to deal with them every day. So I don't like to label people necessarily as toxic, because again, like I said earlier, we all have tendencies. We all have things that we need to work through in our lives. But if you see, like, time and time again that this person is just not willing to take responsibility in that setting, then you have to understand that that is not your fault at all. Um, but yeah, in this situation where we have to deal with people of emotional immaturity, I say act with integrity. Make sure that you are acting with integrity and you still respect that person. Again, that person is still a individual. They're still a human. But sorry, I'm outside. That person is still a human, but you need to um, you need to create some distance between, not like physical distance, but more emotional detachment, where you're not in a constant loop of reacting to that person or feeding into their criticisms or anything that triggers you. Because emotional people that are emotionally immature, they act as if they are children that don't know how to regulate their emotions, and it can be difficult to deal with. Believe me, you're not the only person that has to deal with this. It is super common. People don't think it is. People think that children are only immature, but nope. Emotional immaturity has very little to do with age, and all to do with where someone is spiritually and emotionally. If someone has significant trauma in their past that they have not dealt with, then one of the results is emotional immaturity. Now, I'm not saying that this is for every case, but for a number of cases, it results in emotional immaturity. Um, and people that are emotionally immature do not see relationships the same way that you do, or the same way that people that are more healthy do, because they see it as more as some of them see it as like a means to an end, or something more, I would say, more surface level or casual. They don't see relationships, they don't hold the same value of relationships that you do. So if you value respect, they might value being right all the time. That person might value being right in an argument over mutual respect. So what you have is, you're trying to reason with someone that is not willing to reason with you, and they're not willing to listen, or they're really not willing to hear you out. They don't have they might shut down in any sense of conflict, or if you're trying to address something serious, they might shut down, or they might blame you or just fight you. So again, this isn't to um, this isn't to label these people as toxic. We all have tendencies to do this, but this is more of a pattern that they have that they refuse to deal with. Because again, as adults, we all have responsibility to um, deal with our actions that are affecting people. And if we don't, then that leaves us more stuck at an immature level. Now, if you have a friend or a family member that is emotionally immature, I understand. I understand how you feel because I feel like I interact with people that are like, in my family that are just not emotionally mature to handle certain situations. And I feel like sometimes you might be in the role of trying to calm them down, but they're like older than you, so it feels weird. I'm in my 20s, guys, for context, and some of the people that I feel like I have to calm down are like in their 50s and 60s, and they're way older than me. And that's why I want to emphasize that emotional maturity doesn't really have to do much necessary with age per se, but more of where that person is mentally and spiritually. Now, as far as how to deal with family that is emotionally immature, first recognize that, again, like I said before, their actions have nothing to do with you, even if they're like your dad or your aunt, your granddad. It has nothing to do with you. Just how much you want to interact with them is up to you. I'm not going to. There's no like, because relationships have a lot of ambiguity, so there is no like black and white thing to do with that. I would say detach from their actions. They might, criticize you, or they might, for example, say something about your career path. Just detach from that and surround yourself with people that do genuinely care about the authentic you, because people that are emotionally immature are not necessarily authentic because they are afraid to do so you might feel like you cannot be your normal self around them, and they can't handle authenticity because of their shame-based identity, which I will get to later. But yeah, as far as dealing with family that is emotionally immature, if you, I'm assuming this is a situation where you are still talking with those family members. I would say to be with them either in a group setting or be with them when you're not so triggered by their actions. And take responsibility, number one, for how you react. See them as someone that is stuck at a much younger age. So we might have like someone who is 50 might be stuck at an age of 20 mentally, and just see that as a tragedy within itself. And because that unravels you from all of the reactions. So yes, these are the situations that I'm going over are situations that you have more control with, of how you want to physically or emotionally distance yourself. So I'm not talking about if you have a romantic partner or if you have a spouse, because those are more like extreme situations that are a lot more difficult to deal with. But I'm talking about people that you don't necessarily interact with all the time, but in some cases you have to, like your coworker or your family member. So yeah, but number one thing is to not take this as a reflection of who you are. This has nothing to do with you, but all to do with their capacity. Now, as far as dealing with a friend that is emotionally immature, um, I have dealt with it a lot more recently because, um, transitioning into college and just being in my like young adult years, the assumption is that, oh well, yeah, people are a lot more mature than they were in high school. No, no, that is like not true, because emotional immaturity is different than age. People age, but a lot of people are stuck at a certain age that makes them more incapable of handling real relationships. So, as far as dealing with a friend that is emotionally immature, so there are a number of different situations that that happen. So there might be situations where this might be more of a casual friend that is emotionally immature, or someone that is a closer friend that is emotionally immature. Both situations can be difficult to deal with because you feel like you're talking to a child at sometimes, and you feel like don't um, they don't they can't grasp your standard of respect. So in both situations, I'm going to say set boundaries. And the word boundaries, I feel like, can be misused sometimes because it's so like everyone says it, will just set boundaries, but boundaries boundaries mean different things to different people. So my definition of boundary isn't, well, if you do this, then I will do this. That's not my definition of boundary. My definition of a boundary is more um, your detachment from them and their reaction to you, and you more so controlling your reaction so that you're not stuck in a codependent cycle where you're reacting to their actions that are offensive toward you. So you can have um, you can have strong boundaries, but it more has to do with how are you going to react, and how are you going to take responsibility for what you do. So there might come a time where there's conflict and you realize that this person just shuts down when you're trying to have like an adult conversation with them, or they refuse to talk, or they give you the silent treatment, or they stonewall you. First of all, I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this because, again, um, it's not the most fun thing. It's definitely not fun to deal with, especially if you are an adult and you're trying to work on yourself and be mature. It's definitely not fun to deal with because as I've discovered, guys, people are a lot less mature than you think in their adult years. And it actually can be a little funny because we all feel like that as adults, the assumption is that we're all mature and we can handle relationships, but no, that's not actually the case. A lot of people, especially, and I hate to say this, I don't like to say this as I never like to be black and white in my statements, but in my experience, this is my personal experience, a lot of young men are emotionally immature, and handling situations with that can be difficult, to say the least, and it can be exhausting. But again, like I said before, this has nothing to do with you or your worth as a person, but more of how they are and what what more has to do with them. But there is something that you can do, um, as far as dealing with like an emotionally immature individual in a friendship. um, how much you want to invest in that friendship is up to you. You should not feel like you have to be obligated to interact with this person, or you don't have to feel obligated to be this person's absolute BFF. So there's different levels of relational intimacy, and if you find out that the person is not mature enough to handle a friendship, then you might have to limit interaction with them, or just um, cut ties with that person. And this isn't just like for friendships, but also family members. You know, you need to give yourself permission to exit relationships that are not working for you, because you will drive yourself insane trying to make relationships work that just can't work. And you need to give yourself permission to walk away, because there are 8 billion people out in the world. And I know in this episode the topic is emotional immaturity, but there are a lot of mature adults. You just have to find them, and you have to be intentional about your community, about who you want in your life. So hopefully this episode, but yeah, this it can be something of how to navigate this, because like me, I feel like I want to be friends with everyone, but you have to realize that that's not actually possible, because some people are just not mature enough to handle a friendship, or they're not mature enough, or you can't have good family relationships with everyone, because they're not mature enough to handle a good, healthy family relationship without having drama in it. Now, as far as why these people are more emotionally immature, so I equate it to a lack of either self-awareness, or more of a shame-based identity. So they have a shame-based self that they have not dealt with. And what that means is their identity is, I am bad and I am a bad person. So imagine going your whole life just believing that you're a bad person, and that you are just bad, and that your whole identity is, I am difficult and I am just not a good person. So if that's your identity, then the way that you treat people is going to be immature. It's going to be it's not going to be healthy. So they don't have a healthy sense of self. So let's go to the coworker that is passive aggressive towards you. So that coworker might be more so intimidated by your sense of security and your sense of self, and they feel that they lack that. So they have to act passive aggressive towards you because of hidden jealousy or just hidden insecurity. So adults that don't know how to handle their insecurity, or don't have the tools to deal with their shame, or their insecure identity, they will act in this way. And that's why I said it has nothing to do with you, but more so how it has to deal with where they are spiritually and emotionally. Not everyone is mature enough to not collapse emotionally when it comes to conflict. So they might be more dysregulated because they don't know how to handle regular, normal things that happen in a relationship. So like conflict or disagreement, they might shut down and they might be more dysregulated. So as far as why that is, my theory, my guess is that they grew up in an environment where they didn't have security. It was more of emotional ups and downs, and the caregivers were more unpredictable. So if if your caregiver is unpredictable and they show affection to you at one time, then they withdraw, and then, or if they grew up in a performance-based environment where their identity is affirmed only if they are quote unquote good. So if a child is only affirmed if they are quote unquote good, then they they internalize that because you're a child. You don't have any other way to not do that. They internalize that as their identity. So if their parents or caregivers, if they mirrored a shame-based identity to them, so if they treated them as more, if they treated them as like, let's say more, like if they if they view the child as bad, then a child internalizes that, and therefore a child believes that they are bad and have a sense of shame. So, and unless they take responsibility for their actions and just their how they treat people, I would say there's not necessarily much hope of them really changing, because emotionally immature people, they do not like to take responsibility because that triggers their shame-based self, that their shame-based identity, and they feel that makes them feel worse. Actually taking responsibility makes them feel worse because their identity is I am bad. So they associate their actions with their whole identity, and that's why trying to confront them can be a ride from hell. Let me tell you. So with all that being said, this has nothing to do with you, and there's not much you can do. You can't change that person. What you can do is focus on yourself and detach from the situation. Now, what that looks like is going to be different for every situation. For people that you just have to deal with at work, you can't. You just have to. You just have to respect them and respect their position. You can't. There's no use in fighting them. Won't solve anything. So respect them as a normal individual, but don't interact with them as someone that is worthy or capable of handling any sense of normal communication, because that's not who they are. They can't handle normal communication. They might ghost you, or they might again shut down because they're dysregulated. So don't interact with them in a way that you interact with someone that's healthy. Respect them from a distance is what I always say. And detach from the mindset of them ever knowing how to interact in a healthy way, because that's not who they are. So this person is not capable of interacting with you in a healthy, mature adult way, and the way that they treat you has all to do with their lack of secure identity and less to do with who you are. But take responsibility for your actions and how you affect people, because we all have areas that need improving. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the mini episode. This is just a mini episode. I will be doing more YouTube probably in the coming weeks. So yeah, stay tuned to it.